Chop season. Bitcoin appears to be stuck in holiday mode as BTC remains range-bound. Can anything get us firing again this week? WTF WLFI. The debut of World Liberty Financial's token kicked off a true crypto soap opera. Grab the popcorn as we run down what went on. On the rebound? Many are wondering whether cryptos that were big last cycle can recover. So we examine Cardano, Polkadot and Avalanche for signs of life. And a look at last week's top performers, dates for the diary, tweets of the week, Lewis with the TA and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live. Welcome everyone, a very happy Monday to one and all of you, and a very happy Monday to you, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm okay, guy. Yeah, chop season.
Yeah.
Chop season, man.
It's a little bit choppy out there, isn't it?
I know. Sentiment is meh, but we're going to make a change. We're going to change that, right?
We're going to pump the market today, folks. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring some Coin Bureau energy to it. Actually, Bitcoin is just broken above 112K again. So, got that Monday live stream effect.
Let's hope it holds, man. Let's hope it holds.
Yeah. So it has been a fairly flat week for Bitcoin, but we're going to take you through what went down anyway and look ahead to the coming week, see if there's anything that might be able to breathe some life into BTC. But it certainly wasn't a quiet week elsewhere in crypto. There was a real, as we said in the headlines, a real soap opera going on with World Liberty Financial. And we're going to dig into some altcoins as well, plus all the usual features too. Now, we want you to let us know how you're feeling about the market down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well. And we need to apologize in advance for any internet issues, right?
Yes, apparently someone decided to cut some cables, undersea internet cables in the Red Sea. So, it's not our fault, guys.
Okay. Yeah, we've been having some quite patchy internet here in Dubai recently. And yeah, as Nick says, apparently something's happened in the Red Sea. So I don't know, blame the Houthis? Seems like it's probably their fault.
Whoever. I mean,
or Somali pirates. I don't know.
Or someone's anchor, just like a fisherman's anchor off the sea. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe
Mossad or something.
Yeah, maybe someone just parked their super yacht over a cable by accident. But hopefully we won't have any internet issues at all. But just covering our asses in case. Anyhow, let's talk about the week in Bitcoin. How did we start last week?
Well, if you guys will recall, it was Labor Day. So the American markets weren't open, so Saylor couldn't announce his buy, but we'll get to that. Nevertheless, even though it was Labor Day, some of the short-term Bitcoin holders were paper handing, and they were selling, according to some on-chain stats over here at Crypto Quant. So holders, the short-term holders defined as those with less than, I think, 30-day holding, had been selling during the past week. So that caused the softness on Monday morning. Then on Tuesday, of course, as mentioned, Saylor did announce a buy. This was 4,048 BTC, about $449 million.
Okay, fairly middle of the road for old Michael Saylor.
Not bad, not like his old times back in the old times when he was buying over like 12,000 BTC, but it's something. And Bitcoin also managed to catch a bounce on the day. So there we go, towards that May high, above the December high. So one resistance level broken. Then on Wednesday, we had a key economic data point with the jobs opening, which was lower than expected.
Okay. So the jobs opening being lower, that kind of talk about maybe, a better environment for rate cuts, right?
Exactly. And and speaking about the jobs market, we'll get to Friday, which is a big one in a bit. But Bitcoin managed to break above 112K again, Another key, it was a key resistance level because it was the 50-day moving average. It was the previous May high. So that was an important level to break. And another thing that was breaking was gold, all-time highs. There we go. Here we go, man.
This guy.
This gold. He loves his gold, man.
He certainly does. Wow, this is quite a chart for gold. So yeah, I mean, gold has just been going from one high to the next. So who are the big buyers here? Do we know?
Maybe Peter Schiff. No.
Peter Schiff.
No. Xi Jinping. Yeah, man. He loves gold, man.
Okay.
He's stacking that gold.
So this is China buying an absolute estimate of gold. So I mean, I guess this is part of their sort of ongoing de-dollarization and move away from US treasuries.
Diversification in terms of their treasury, away from US treasuries, and no weaponization of the dollar when they hold gold. And then, of course, on Friday was a big day, really big day, because it was all led to the NFP, the non-farm payrolls, and it was an absolute shocker.
Oh.
Came in at 22K versus 73. Now, I'm firstly surprised the fact that the Bureau of Labor Statistics would now still publish bad data, given that.
I mean, is there anyone left at the Bureau of Labor Statistics to even publish the data?
Did they not get the memo that the new Trump guy said you guys can only publish approved statistics?
Yeah. Well, maybe whoever handed this in also handed their resignation in at the same time.
Exactly.
Just there's the statistics. There's my resignation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
But the reason that it was particularly bad wasn't just the number itself, but it was the revisions, because it turns out we also lost 13,000 jobs in June. Wow. And it was the first time we lost jobs since 2020.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see.
Probably
here, exactly.
Nothing. Well, of course, that is bad news for a lot of people. I guess if we're looking at it from the context of our bags, possibly good news, because again, this kind of strengthens the case for rate cuts, right?
Exactly. Bad news if you're looking for a job in the US. Good news if you want to hold Bitcoin in your bags. So the rate cut probabilities jumped. On Polymarket, indeed in the CME futures rate predictions or futures pricing, there's 0% chance there's not going to be a cut, so there will be a cut. Now it's 90% chance of 25 basis points and 10% chance of 50. And indeed, even some analysts at the likes of Bank of America, which were previously saying we would have no rate cuts, have come out and said this year we'll have 2. Okay. So that happened.
All right. Looks like we might get a rate cut soon, because there is a Fed meeting. Is the Fed meeting next week?
I think it's next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to get my Fed watch Fed ready, meeting man. Watch party out.
Put it in the calendar. Exactly. Get the crisps and everything. Get the friends
in,
over. Yeah, man. You know how we roll. Now Bitcoin also broke through 113K on that news. So good performance from Bitcoin. And but unfortunately on Friday, now lots of people were hoping that potentially strategy could be added to the S&P 500 index. And this would obviously be bullish for strategy, which needs some bullish news, because if you look at MSTR's price action over the past 3 weeks, it's been pretty lackluster. But there was hope that it could potentially be added to the S&P 500 index. And unfortunately, it was not, although Robinhood was, which is becoming a bit more of a crypto company these days anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, Robinhood really leaning into crypto. Some pretty big volumes of crypto that it's doing on its platform, and of course also building its own layer 1. Now, obviously, I guess strategy being added to the S&P 500 would be a big deal for crypto, because that would mean that passive funds are then they then have to buy strategy stock, which would presumably then give Saylor even more dry powder to buy more Bitcoin.
Exactly, a natural bidder. They'll have to buy the shares. He'll probably issue them out. But the main thing is that although the strategy met the qualifications from data and in terms of like market cap, etc., it's still up to the discretion of the people who work at S&P, right?
Oh, that's interesting. So because I was aware that there were certain criteria that have to be met in order to get into the S&P, but I thought it was a kind of automatic thing, like you cross this threshold, you're in. But that's not the case.
No, they still have discretion at the end of the day. So that's what it is.
So a bunch of guys in suits basically at Standard & Poor's are still calling this.
Still calling the shots, man. TradFi rules the world. Still is, man. The man in the suit.
You get the feeling maybe Michael Saylor fell afoul of one of them at some point, and they're deliberately keeping strategy out. Maybe it's just too crypto.
Perennially sidelined, and they're just basically getting back at them with this way.
They're just salty.
The guys in the suits are just salty. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
But anyways, and we fell back below 111K after that, and we formed this really exciting candle formation called the Darth Maul.
Right. This is because it's like that double lightsaber.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like that.
I should clarify that there isn't actually a candle formation called the Darth Maul. I just decided to name it that, but and that is kind of a jaunty Darth Maul.
Well, it looks like sort of the battery for one side of his lightsaber is sort of needs a bit of charge.
He's going to fight this. He's going to fight the Jedis, and he's like,
yeah. It's okay. I see what you're driving at there. Okay,
so
maybe that was a catch on,
but that's a crazy candle either way. It shows how volatile that day was. Then the weekend onto today. Well, over the weekend, we have this interesting chart again from the on-chain statistics, shows that whales have been dumping their Bitcoin considerably over the past 2 weeks. So this is whale wallets of between 1,000 to 10,000 BTC. And the 30-day change in that number is considerable. In fact, it's the highest change in terms of negative since 2022.
What do they know that we don't? Why are these whales suddenly paper handy? Because as you mentioned earlier, it was also short-term hold. So we're basically being screwed by whales and short-term holders.
Short-term whales, yeah,
Short-term
basically short-term paper-handed whales. What's wrong with you guys, man? I thought when you got into Bitcoin, you knew it to be volatile. What's up with this?
Yeah,
man?
what's going on?
Yes,
what's going on?
Anyways, Saylor bought again today.
Okay.
Number was 1,955 BTC. So modest.
Yeah,
something.
Not bad.
Meh, something.
Just a nibble.
Just a nibble. So most importantly, what's coming this week? Key inflation data, CPI, coming out later this week. So keep an eye on that. We'll get to that a bit later in the stream. Just looking at two quick charts on the weekly chart. This is Bitcoin. And this is Bitcoin above its famous bull market support band, which is a combination of different moving averages. And thankfully, it has bounced above its resistance, which is the bull market support band. So generally, the bull market support band is seen as the trend of which it is still above the bull market support band. We're technically still in a bull market. So there's that on the weekly. Then the daily chart is really interesting from a few points here. So one, for example, in terms of, we can clearly see that the 111 to 113K level is a lot of support, a lot of resistance there. We've been struggling to break that over the past 2 weeks.
Right.
And we are now we're within that box, within that resistance area, and we are just bouncing at the 50-day moving average. So that's the next resistance level. If we can get above that, that's great. Another potential target, if we manage to break out of that resistance and we go up, is the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement level from the retracement, which coincidentally also is at the first point of the CME gap we opened 2 weeks ago. If you recall,
there it is.
That big
the
CME
gap.
So that could potentially be the route we take. On the downside, though, if we don't manage to break through the support and then we bounce down, potential support zone could again be the 61.8% Fibonacci ratio, which for those who follow Fibonacci know that's the golden ratio. From a formation perspective, what's interesting to note here is that we've previously had a descent, we've had the lower lows, and now we could have the first higher low potentially this week going forward. So that's where I've circled it over there. So keep an eye on that.
Okay.
So it's interesting, potentially bullish formation, but keep an eye on it this week, guys. But of course, if you guys want to play by play, trade by trade of everything that's going on in the day, we'll refer you to the Coin Bureau trading channel with Dan the Man and Aaron Dishner. Scan that QR code. We need to get them above 100,000.
Yep. Like we keep saying, no alt season until Coin Bureau trading is above 100K subscribers. That is just the way the world works, folks.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, let's have a quick look at sentiment in the comments. Generally pretty good. Boomer Sooner just thought we'd just say pudgy. Good for you, Boomer Sooner. What about so Carwin says, I'm feeling good. The market is at buyable levels, and I'm finally able to watch the show live. Good times.
Damn straight, man.
There we are.
What
Couldn't
took
agree
you so
more.
long, man? Come on.
J. Rue says, I heard Fartcoin is going to be the new world reserve currency. Yes, we're hearing those rumors too. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that.
Between XRP and Fartcoin, one of the two.
Yeah.
Xi Jinping is discussing right now with the PBOC what will form the reserve. They're going to dump their gold to buy either Fartcoin or XRP.
Or XRP. Maybe a bag of both.
Diversification.
Yeah. Okay. Moonstone says, have they covered DOT yet so I can set my nap time for this period? It doesn't work like that, Moons. You've got to watch the whole thing. You can't just come in at the well, we're going to cover DOT a bit later. I'm not going to tell you when.
Going up or down.
Yeah, you can't just nap through the rest of it. You'll miss all the good stuff. And 312 Mary H says, my brain is on full lately. I know the feeling. Okay, so we talked about Bitcoin. It's now time to talk about a slightly more dramatic tale that unfolded last week. Now, cast your minds back to last week's live news show. Nick was giving you guys a preview of World Liberty Financial and the launch of the WLFI token. Now, there was a lot of fanfare around this. This was the big news story this time last week. And it kind of all kicked off, didn't it?
Yeah, WTF, WLFI.
It's a lot of letters. I know. It's a big acronym.
So, yeah, first of all, let's take a look at that price chart. Out of the launch, down 63%, then up 53% over the weekend.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the launch timeline. So it launched at $40, quickly dropped to 21
40 cents.
Sorry. Good, you caught me there. $40. That would have been 40 cents.
Someone checking their portfolio.
It's like, wow,
really?
my God, my portfolio $40. No, your bags are still underwater, bro. 40 cents, quickly dropped to 21 cents and then stabilized around 23 to 24 cents.
Okay, yeah. They then announced that they were going to adopt some token burns to permanently reduce the supply. This was funnily enough agreed by the community. Surprising that.
Well, I'm surprised they would have agreed to that. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Burning supply to increase people's bags and increase the value of people's bags. Who would have thought it?
Yeah. But it's worth noting as well, and this is when it comes to the centralization question. It's the idea of they capped the amount of voting power of the wallets, right, to prevent insider dominance at 5% per wallet in terms of voting power. And that's important because Trump's family's holdings of $5 billion, $5 billion remain locked.
This is, so this gave rise to quite a few articles in the kind of mainstream media over the week, basically pointing out that this pumped the value of Trump's sort of overall portfolio massively.
I think Trump's entire wealth now is mostly in crypto.
So basically a crypto bro is now in charge of,
it's crazy.
Well,
he's
the world, or at least half the world. Yes. Now it's important to point out though that the $5 billion that the Trump family are holding in WLFI, that is remaining locked for the time being. So you can kind of take that sell risk off the page for the time being. However, that hasn't really stopped a fair bit of negative sentiment around the project, has it?
Yeah, exactly. So this is Jake Shavinsky. I think he was a Coin Center as a crypto lawyer. He said that World Liberty Financial will make it way harder to get market structure legislation done in the Senate, where we need 7 Democrats to vote yes, and for whom a pro-crypto vote will be politically challenging, to put it mildly, no matter what the bill says about policy. Happy for.
Yeah. So this is sort of the big issue now, in that, there was a lot of talk when Trump came out so pro-crypto, a year ago or so in the run up to the election. There was a lot of talk then, a lot of fears that crypto was becoming politicized. And now that is even more so the case, now that the Trump family have their own crypto project. As you said, most of their fortune is now in crypto. And yeah, as Jake Chavinsky points out there, they need some Democrat votes, and Democrats are going to find that either very hard to vote for, or they're just not going to want to vote for it because it's now become so polarizing. They would, I guess many of them would feel that any pro-crypto legislation they voted for would indirectly or even directly enrich the president. Yeah,
exactly. And speaking of wallets that are locked, someone else had their wallet locked and frozen. It wasn't by design.
Yeah, so this was a real twist in the tale. Justin Sun, the founder of
His
Tron,
Excellency.
I beg your pardon. Please forgive me.
His
forgive me, Your Excellency. His Excellency Justin Sun, founder of Tron, one of the big early investors in World Liberty Financial. He went in with a sort of $30 million seed buy-in, and then just casually pumped it up to $75 million
in the second round. Yeah. So what exactly happened? The freeze incident itself. So on the 5th of September, he revealed that his WLFI tokens were unreasonably frozen. But it's interesting. They did this because they suspected potential that his tokens were moved to potentially impact on the price, although on-chain data shows that Sun's transfers occurred after the sharpest drop, so meaning he wasn't the cause.
Okay. So yeah, this was fairly big news, but analysts were then looking at exactly why the crash happened. It seemed to be more a sort of institutional corporate thing, right?
Yeah, moving OTC desks, moving it from BitGo to Flowdesk, and that potentially triggered it. Maybe people were scared there was going to be dumping, even though that wasn't the intention. World Liberty also froze 272 wallets in total, which included Sun's, but most of these likely linked to phishing and compromised accounts.
Okay. And this was supposedly done to protect users and not to stifle trading.
Yeah. And Tron, of course, confirmed that Sun is in active talks with World Liberty Financial to resolve the matter. I can imagine.
I bet he is.
And I don't think it's through customer support desks.
You are currently number 150 in the queue. Yeah. So I mean, this is slightly problematical, I guess. The idea of freezing these wallets that were linked to, as we said, phishing or compromised accounts. Some of these wallets may not necessarily have been involved in dodgy stuff directly. I mean, they could have been dusted.
Yeah, they could have been dusted. There were some wallets and some users who bought in who may have had adjacent wallets to something several hops away from the likes of a Tornado Cash transaction. But it's all these blockchain tracking tools, the likes of Chainalysis, etc. They can be quite sensitive, and you can set the sensitivity. And some projects use a high threshold, which means you have a lot of potential false positives. So some people may have been flagged, even though it wasn't really the case. But despite the tensions, Justin Sun pledged recently to buy $10 million more of WLFI and
$20 million more.
20 million, sorry. And then also about 10 million in the token and 10 million in the stock.
Right. Okay.
The Alt5 Sigma. So he seems to have, the bygones be bygones. He's back into it. He's bullish on it.
That's how you bump your way up, up the queue. It's like, what if I buy another $20 million? Can I go to number one in the queue then?
Exactly. And then he'll just dump it when he gets it, the moment he gets it. So he's hedging himself. But despite the launch, I think what's interesting is, and I did actually surprisingly manage to speak to and interview the founders of World Liberty last week.
Okay.
So you guys can watch it on the More Coin Bureau, which you can sign up to over here, right? Scan the QR code.
Yep.
But basically, they're trying to build something. The big product here they've got is USD1. Right?
Yeah.
So basically, that has been they chose a very limited time period, but it has been one of the fastest centralized stablecoins, and WLFI will be used as a governance component within this stablecoin for this USD1 stablecoin.
Okay.
And then they also, like you mentioned, this Alt5 Sigma is basically acting as a digital asset treasury company that's going to bid WLFI. So there is more going on there, but I can understand people's concerns. I can understand how people view a Trump-backed project of some description. But yeah, watch the interview and see what you guys think.
Yeah, it was a very interesting interview. I guess the proof of the pudding in all of this is going to be whether they roll out a functional platform that actually that is actually useful. And because there's a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk when they set it up about how this is going to things like democratize access.
There also was a lot of buzzwords. Look, they're going to try and release some sort of an app as well, a consumer app. I think they've talking.
It's going to be an app.
It's going to be an app. I mean, look, to be honest, that's important. You need to have a consumer app of some description if you want retail to come in. But it's since rallied over the weekend. I think that we'll have to see. Wait and see. I don't personally hold it. I don't know. Did you buy any?
No, I certainly did not. Again, it was a get a load of popcorn and watch from the sidelines. I mean, that chart that you showed us at the beginning there of WLFI since its launch. I mean, I've seen worse.
Oh, 100%.
I've seen worse. Like a lot of these things launch and then they never get another pump. So suggests there is still interest in it.
World Liberty team, who's your market maker? Let us know.
Yes, that would be interesting to know. But yeah, I guess if they roll out an app, if they roll out a useful product that people can actually use in the way that they've said or that they've hinted at with all these buzzwords, then that's when we can maybe start to judge the project a success or otherwise. There was always going to be froth around the launch of the token, wasn't there? And I guess there was always going to be controversy. But let's just hope that they can actually follow through and build something useful.
It'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah.
And if you guys are feeling bullish on WLFI or indeed bearish, so either you want to go long or short, then we couldn't think of a better place to do it than on our first brand partner, which is BitGet. So it's one of the fastest growing exchanges in the world with one of the highest spot volume currently. All the trending coins you need, solid liquidity in spot and futures market.
Yep, they've got tools like copy trading. They've got various AI tools that you can play around with as well. And if you join up using our link, the QR code on your screen, then you're eligible for up to 50K in USDT deposit bonus.
Yep, so go and complete those steps, guys, and collect your $50,000 deposit bonus. Do it now.
So
and bid WLFI up to the moon.
Okay, you do what he said.
Not financial
Nick's been captured.
No.
Okay, so it's time now. So WLFI is yet another brand spanking shiny new crypto project to hit the market. There seems to be one along every other day or so, and of course there was a lot of excitement about that. But a lot of people have asked in the comments, have been talking about for years. What about all these projects that many people still hold from the last cycle? Now, you notice that I'm not using the term dino coins here.
No, don't do that, guys. You don't want to do that prior to mentioning these coins, because you will be cast aside.
That can certainly trigger people. But look, there are a lot of projects that have been kicking around for quite a long time now that showed a great deal of early promise, and in many respects probably do still have a lot of promise. Certainly have a lot of things going on in their ecosystems. A lot of good people still working on them. So that's why we chose the 3 projects that we're going to discuss now. We, there are plenty of projects that are quite clearly dead. Nothing is happening and no one cares. However, the 3 we're about to talk about are all being worked on. They all have dedicated teams trying to make them better. So we thought we'd do a quick, a life check and see whether there's still potential.
Life check, and also most importantly, one of the most important questions many people have is, can it recover its previous all-time highs? Because if you had held it and bought it in the previous bull market, you want to know, do I have a chance of getting in at my entry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the first ones is Cardano, real OG, one of the last cycle coins. In terms of price, where it is right now, just to put things into context, it's currently trading at 74% from its all-time high in 2021. Okay. And when it reached its recent high in November of $1.40, it was 56% below the all-time high.
Okay.
Now, in terms of updates, let's first get onto the updates. They unveiled major progress over here, some key stats, which we can quickly run through.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on with scaling and governance. Governance has obviously always been a very big part of Cardano, and there are big steps being taken towards the Voltaire era, which is all focused on governance.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also been technology upgrades, Plutus improvements, and new core releases.
And wallet infrastructure has been improved too. There's a new version of the Daedalus wallet coming out, which enhances user access. And of course, there's also been the upcoming launch of the Midnight privacy chain as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Charles also going full steam ahead with the Leos upgrade, to make Cardano even faster, right?
Yeah. So you may remember this headline. This is a few weeks ago now, but a lot of ADA was pledged to to further develop that. Obviously, more work on Hydra as well. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the prospect of a possible spot ETF for ADA 2.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be decided in October, I believe, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of SEC approvals to be done.
Yeah.
Now the question then, of course, can it recover to reach its previous all-time high?
Yeah.
So to reach its previous all-time high in terms of price, it would need to have a market cap of roughly $110 billion.
Okay.
Now, how likely is that? Well, I think one thing to look at is the total crypto market cap to assess like how much potential that has in this cycle, and then deduce from that whether it's possible. So assuming the rankings remain the same, that would mean an expansion of total, which is the total crypto market cap, by 3.7 times. Currently, the total market cap is at $3.7 trillion in total crypto market cap. So look, this is an interesting chart. It's the total crypto market cap over time, and it shows the increase in the total market cap from two previous cycles, from 2014 to the 2017 top, and then from the 2017 top until 2021. So in the first cycle, it grew by 37 times. Second cycle, it grew by 4 times. So we have that diminishing returns. You see that for Bitcoin, you'll see it for the total crypto market cap.
Okay.
So remember, we need to increase the total market cap by 3.7 times,
right?
Assuming that Cardano remains the same in terms of where it is in rankings, but the previous cycle grew by 4 times.
Okay.
So
that's a fairly big ask.
It's a big ask. Also, and the diminishing returns point. So Dan on CoinBureau Trading did a video this weekend that he said he assesses that potentially the total crypto market cap could top out at between $6 to $8 trillion.
Okay.
So that's nowhere near what would be required. So that's about 1.6 to 2.1 times growth in the total market cap.
Okay.
So TLDR is it would be difficult to reach that all-time high given the total market cap potential for this cycle.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that ADA doesn't have potential, doesn't mean it can't rally. Probably will go through its previous high in November of 1.5. It's just the previous all-time high is a difficult number.
That is a big ask. I think when ADA reached its all-time high in the last cycle, it had Cardano, I should say, it had a very strong narrative as an Ethereum killer. That was the big narrative at that time. What was going to be the next Ethereum? What was going to take Ethereum down? Obviously, Charles himself, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, he left to found Cardano, thinking, he saying that he had a better way to do it. And yeah, that was the big narrative. Now, we fast forward to today, that narrative has become a lot more crowded. Back when ADA topped, last time around, Solana was still very new on the scene.
Yeah.
We've since had a lot of new layer ones hit the market. And of course, we've seen Ethereum's layer 2 ecosystem grow as well. So there's a huge amount of fragmented liquidity, I think, if you like, which means, again, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get ADA to a new all-time high from
Yeah. And it's also the corp chains, right? So it's not just the layer 1s, layer 2s, but also those corpo chains that have been launched, in many of which recently, Stripe, Robinhood, etc. But now moving on to the next potential coin. Speaking of layer 1s, one of the biggest interoperability layer 1s of the previous cycle that grabbed a lot of attention is Polkadot, a dot. So yeah. Moonriver, was his name Moonriver? Whoever. Here's finally the moment you've been waiting for, mate. Speculation around there's speculation around a big announcement today, guys. So potentially rolls out version. What?
Yes, I was kind of looking, I was digging a bit more into this. There's kind of rumors that Polkadot is going to make a big announcement today. Some people speculating it could be, perhaps the launch or at least news of kind of Polkadot 2.0. Polkadot itself, last time I checked, hadn't sort of tweeted about this, or if they had, they deleted it. So that is still kind of speculative, but nonetheless, there is still an awful lot going on in the Polkadot ecosystem. Gavin Wood returned as CEO. Wow. Oh, that is a great picture.
Great
blue steel on the beach.
How deep did you guys have to search in the internet annals to find that picture? Like, honestly.
Gavin Wood's style icon. I love that.
That's my CEO.
That's the guy.
That's the guy running our chains.
That's the guy you
want.
Great,
man. He's in. Okay. Apart from leadership shift, and is the regulation and ETFs. So Grayscale has refiled its S1 ETF application for a Polkadot ETF.
Yep. I think this is important to note as well, because this isn't one of these, these companies that you've never heard of filing for a sort of random one. This is Grayscale. This is what Grayscale do.
Yeah.
So this is, perhaps one of the more serious ETF filings that we've seen, and that could very well be big for DOT. Again, that I think is going to be approved sort of October, November time, approved or disapproved. Meanwhile, there was an interesting report published by Messari fairly recently. This was Q1 2025, highlighting it's one of their state of reports, highlighting some of the stuff. What was the sort of TLDR from that?
I mean, it was a lot, to be honest. In terms of the network, it was a mixed bag. The network stats weren't looking too good, like total transactions are down, etc. So now I guess the question is can it recover? Well, let's take a look at that chart, guys. Now Polkadot is down 93% from an all-time high. Put differently, it needs to rally about 14 times to reach its previous high.
Okay.
Now, assuming market cap rankings remain the same, and given what we said in terms of the potential for the total market cap in this cycle, I think that's optimistic.
That is a 14x on anything. Certainly anything,
the top 10 is like in the top 120 or whatever it's at right now.
That is a very, very big ask. I want to highlight a couple of things. Someone saying, are you aware that there's voting going on right now in OpenGov for Polkadot, introducing fixed supply? Soft, medium, and hard proposal is voted on. Currently, hard cap is winning. Yes, we did hear something about that as well. I mean, what was the other thing? There was an interesting thread from Parity that they just put out, talking about JAM. This is Polkadot's decentralized modular supercomputer that is almost ready, they say as well. So, look, there is certainly a heck of a lot going on with Polkadot. There are some really interesting projects in Polkadot's ecosystem as well. Peak is one that springs to mind. That's one that we here at the Coin Bureau invested in. I'm hoping to actually do an interview with Peak's
Leonard, right?
founder, with Leo. Yeah, very soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Nick says, I think it's difficult to see DOT getting near that all-time high, because 14x is just a huge ask.
Yeah, but like we say, guys, this is not an indictment on its potential in this cycle. It's just saying that the previous all-time high is a big ask. And it's only if you bought the tip top of the previous cycle. So just FYI. Now, one more we want to take a look at is another really interesting layer one, which has been getting a lot of adoption when it comes to its subnet architecture, and this is Avalanche. Now, let's just go through a few of the quick updates. Institutional adoption. Skybridge Capital has been tokenizing on Avalanche.
Oh, this is Anthony Scaramucci.
The Mooch, yes.
The Mooch. Okay. Meanwhile, there's a fair amount of ecosystem growth going on. $12 billion in DEX volume last month.
Crazy, man. Wow. That's come down, but it's new September.
Yeah.
There was also a recently announced partnership with Toyota to develop a Robotaxi network.
Yeah. It's quite an interesting story, that. It's one of these, this is one of these sort of classic announcements, partnership announcements and stuff that it can sometimes, be a bit of a nothing burger, but it certainly shows that, there is big corporate interest outside of the crypto space in Avalanche and kind of crypto more broadly.
Does that incorporate some AI infra in there as well, like the cars?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Of course, there's a bit of AI
man.
in there.
Throw it in, man. You got to pump that narrative. Now, when it comes to can it recover? So the chart, please, gentlemen. So it's down 84% from all-time high, which means it needs a 6.3x to recover. It also is different. I mean, it's still a relatively high market cap. I think it's like 15. So again, it's difficult to hit that all-time high. But be that as it may, in terms of potential short-term price action, it seems like a lot of predictions out there for 2025 have a price target between 25 to 35. But in terms of what I will say, I took a look at the chart just to see if there's something else in there. And I will note that on the daily, it has had a golden ratio with the 150-day moving average crossing over the 200, which is generally seen as a bullish sign. I'll also note that we've got the potential Fibonacci level, the 61.8%, the golden ratio level at about $32. If we do break above, then we could see that as a resistance level. But a downward resistance level, we're looking at about $16 to $18 in the past, which we've seen over the past few weeks, months, indeed.
Okay.
So potentially in the short term, we could have, Avalanche and AVAX could have potential, but don't count on it hitting the previous all-time high. That's what I'm saying.
I think what all of this shows is that, so much has changed since 2021. The market has become more crowded. For instance, I mentioned that massive Ethereum layer 2 ecosystem that's grown up. We've also, of course, had more layer ones come to the party. We're now sort of talking about rivals like Aptos and Sui, for example, as well. So this is getting a harder and a more and more crowded field. And I think it's also worth pointing out as well that one of the big threats now to these, if you like, established or older layer ones, is the fact that now a lot of TradFi companies and a lot of crypto companies are talking about building their own layer ones. So you can forget about layer 2s, or that is something as well. But really what we may be looking at is this even more fragmented future where companies just, these big TradFi giants that we kind of hoped or expected would eventually find their way onto some layer 1 blockchain or another, or maybe have their own, parachain on Polkadot, for instance, or subnet on Avalanche, are actually now looking like they may just go and build their own layer 1s, which of course gives them a lot more control over all aspects of it.
And why wouldn't they, to be honest, if you can control the entire stack? If you guys saw the news over the weekend about Tempo from Stripe, it's crazy because they control the entire stack. They've got Bridge and they've got the wallet infrastructure as well. They bought a wallet provider recently as well. So yeah, there's just so much in terms of what's out there right now in terms of layer 1s, layer 2s, corpo chains that there is a lot of saturation, dilution.
Yeah, and just look at the example of Hyperliquid. This is a layer 1 chain that has launched a bespoke layer 1, and just kind of adding to the competition. So although the 3 projects that we've talked about, like I say, they all have dedicated teams working on them. They all have interesting stuff going on. But just personally, I think it's a huge ask for any single one of those to challenge for a new all-time high, unless the market goes absolutely bananas, which could happen, but kind of hope for the best, expect the worst.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, guy, to expect the total crypto market cap to rally by 14 times in the case of Polkadot.
It could happen.
I'm sorry, guys.
It could happen.
I know. Okay, I'll give you. You can have the hope. You can keep the hope for alt season.
Thank
I'm just like giving you a bit of dose of reality. But if you guys are bullish on either one of these three projects and you're looking to store it for life because you're such a long-term hodler, then we couldn't think of a better place to do it than with a Tangem device. Now, Tangem is our second brand partner. They have a hardware wallet device. It's kind of this card. It's your all-in-one crypto solution. There's no seed phrases, no middlemen, and no compromises. And it's very easy to set up, right?
It is ridiculously easy to set up. You basically just tap it on your phone and it takes you through it. Even an idiot like me can do it. So yes, it's also much cheaper than most hardware wallet alternatives. You can also use it as a web wallet too. It's very, very functional, and it's got incredible coin support as well.
Yeah,
I was glancing through, and it basically had everything that I held.
Yep. So if you guys want your device, scan the QR code over there. It will take you to a sign-up page to buy one, or hit the link in the description. And it's also quite well priced compared to many of the other hardware wallets out there.
Very well priced. Bish bosh. Okay. Top performers from last week. This is an interesting one. We got one just coming in out of nowhere. I've never heard of MYX Finance. I looked into it. It's a perp dex backed by Sequoia, Consensus, a few others. It's got some heavyweight cash behind it, that's for sure. This absolutely absurd pump seems to be speculation around a V2 upgrade, among other things. I mean, I kind of feel, is this just people looking for the next hyperliquid?
Or there's just some insider who decided to buy.
Oh, Nick, you're so cynical.
That's the rules, guy. I'm sorry, man. It's like, that's
what, you're suggesting that maybe there's some market making shenanigans.
Market maker fat fingered, now fat fingered beforehand. Sorry, my bad, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to buy quickly. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Oh, we appear to have pumped it. Okay, well, that's MYX Finance. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from them. Meanwhile, next up is Meme Core. We've seen this as a top performer a few times. This is a meme-focused layer one. I'll level with you guys. I have absolutely no idea why this is pumping.
I personally don't know why we need a meme-focused layer one. Talk about like a solution for something that for no problem.
We get the crypto projects we deserve, not the ones that we want. Okay, what's up next, Nick?
WorldCoin.
Oh,
and this is pumping thanks none other to Mr. Tom Lee, merely just quote tweeting Sam Altman.
Yeah, he reposted another tweet, which I couldn't find going back through his timeline, but he reposted something more specifically about WorldCoin as well.
So Tom Lee can now actually pump tokens. He is a KOL. He's a Twitter KOL.
Tom Lee, I think, is he the Q3 main character?
I think he is, man.
Main character of Q3?
If you can literally move a coin the size of WorldCoin with just a retweet, I mean, come on, mate.
Okay. Next up in the top performance list, we have Pump.Fun and Pump. Now, actually, kudos to these guys, because when we covered sort of Pump.Fun after the Pump token launched, and we've done, we've sort of looked into them a bit over the last few weeks, and it was not looking good for them. They were being absolutely eviscerated by Let's Bonk. They'd lost their status as the sort of number one meme coin launchpad, but they've gone and got it back.
They have indeed. This is well above the ICO price, which is great. And this is the buybacks. This is all with regards to the buybacks and incentives.
Yeah. So they're also adding some creator incentives as well. I mean, credit to them. They seem to have taken a lot of the criticism on board. They seem to be kind of going down with revenue. They now seem to be going down the hyperliquid route of basically funneling as much revenue as possible into buying back the token. And it seems to be working.
There we go. Credit to them and credit to the team. And finally, in terms of performers, we have four possibly pumping due to ecosystem expansion.
Yeah. I saw this about RWAs launching on it soon. Yeah, this is not a project I'm all that familiar with. Again, there seems to be quite a lot of focus on memes, but also GameFi. And this is rebranded from.
It was to be some other BSC project, right?
Yes, I think so.
Anyways, now, guys, last week we presented you for the first time ever some TA with Lewis, our new host here at Coin Bureau, and it seems that you guys were quite a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
So back by popular demand, we thought we'd get Lewis to take a look again at some TA for you guys in terms of he's looking at Bitcoin, and he's going to be looking at one of the top performers and also one of the worst performers in this TA. So take it away, Lewis.
Charts and trends, he'll show the way. Lewis brings the TA today.
What's going on, guys? It is Lewis, and I will do some TA for you. This is Bitcoin. We'll start out with Bitcoin, and we'll go to pump.fun, and then we'll go to World Liberty Finance. So if you remember from the last stream, I drew out the infamous, amazing, squiggly line of magical goodness. And I said that right here would be a great time for it to actually bounce. And if it doesn't bounce here, then it would probably bounce over here. Why is that? It's because we're making higher highs and we're making higher lows continually. Higher high, higher high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher low, yada, yada, yada. And as long as we keep on doing that, we're good to go. And we're still in an uptrend, and there's nothing to worry about in my opinion. However, if we close underneath this higher low, that will be very, very concerning. And it doesn't look like we're doing that right now. So we're good to go right now. This right here was the previous resistance. And what happens to big resistance levels? They turn into support. And that is exactly what is happening right now. It's turning into support, and we are bouncing off of it. So that is awesome for Bitcoin. Now, if we go down into the daily chart, this right here is what we call a daily bullish order block, which is the down move before the up move that broke the market structure. And we actually bounced within that area. And not only that, but if you take the Fibonacci from the bottom to the top, and you look at the 61.8, then you could see that it is right there. And what do you know? We happened to bounce right off of that golden ratio. Pretty freaking cool. Not only that, but this also is the 2024 all-time high right here, December 17th. That was the all-time high of 2024, and we're bouncing off of there. So there's a lot of confluence right in this area. If we do lose this, obviously I would be a little worried, and I would just wait for a bullish setup to form. Or if we come down here to that equal low area, then I would definitely want to be buying just spot Bitcoin right down here as well. Personally, because we are moving up, I'm going to stay with the trend until otherwise, and the trend is your friend. And so right here at around $117,000 is the next big resistance that I could see. And so once we come up here, I'm going to start being very, very cautious, and I'll probably just like exit my positions, because if you do look at the weekly chart, this candle right here is really, really bad. It's a very bearish long wick candle at the top that put in a sweep of the previous highs. It's just bad looking all around. But that doesn't mean that we can't come up to at least this big cluster and this big support resistance area before we actually start to go back down. If we end up going back down, or maybe some news will come out and we'll end up just pumping even harder and making new all-time highs. That's Bitcoin, and I know that I went over it, but I'm not going to remake this for the third time because I don't want to. So let's move on to pump.fun, another coin, which is amazing considering that Bitcoin has been going down while pump.fun has been going to the moon, pumping up like crazy. Okay, in these type of situations, I don't like to chase giant green candles, and that's exactly what's been happening with pump.fun. So it's already up, and what I like to do is basically put in the top, put in the bottom, and look at the range. This is the range, this huge thing, with my amazing squiggly line that wasn't really that accurate, but we're above the 50%. We're above the 50% from this range right here, okay? And I do not like to buy when we're above the 50%, because that is what is known as a premium zone. I like to buy in the discount zone, okay, underneath the 50%. So personally, I'm not going to be touching this unless it happens to fall. And if it falls down, I do like this area right here around, 0.0036 to 0.0034, simply because I believe it was on the daily chart. You could see big resistance right here, big support right here, big resistance right here, big resistance right here. What happens to big resistances? They turn into big supports, just like what we saw with Bitcoin. So if it comes back down there, that's where I'll be buying it. But right now, it's up way too much. And I think that there's other coins that are better value than this, considering that this only has 37, 38% left to go in it before it reaches the all-time highs. Lastly, we have World Liberty Finance, okay? World Liberty Finance, this is the best chart that I could find of it. Some of the other charts were just literally down. It was just all red. It was ridiculous. And I will say something about this, though. I will say something about this, which is that we had the big support. That's where it started. It came all the way down, crashed, the very second day or maybe the day that it launched, hit the support again, pumped up, hit the support, and then crashed underneath of it. Crashed underneath of it, and it actually did reclaim it. So it reclaimed the support technically, and we're at it now. So if you were thinking about gambling on World Liberty Finance, it's actually probably the best opportunity to do that. But remember, this is a Trump coin, and just look at all of the coins that Trump has launched and what has happened to them. So are you really gonna be, gambling on this? Do you really want to do that? I don't know. If you do, though, I would probably put a stop either down here or maybe even have it tighter and be over here. But yeah, if it falls underneath the lows and closes underneath here at 0.176, then you just need to get out of it, because it could be literally a bottomless pit of despair if it closes underneath here, okay? But right now, if we see a bullish formation on maybe a lower time frame, then taking a shot at it might not be the worst thing if this is the coin that you want to trade. And that is going to be it for me. So we could get back to you guys, and I will see you in the next live for more TA. And if any viewers want any particular coins, just drop them in the comments, and maybe we'll choose the coin that gets commented the most or something like that. All right, back to you guys.
Man, that was an epic.
That was
epic, man. That was so entertaining. Why did we only choose for 6 minutes?
I know.
I could have watched the whole movie.
There's so much energy there, isn't there? Love it. Once Lewis gets going on the TA, it's hard to stop him.
Can't stop him, bro.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lewis. Yes, we will see you. We will see you next week. Now, it's about time we had a look at some tweets of the week as well, Nick.
Pull that up, guys.
We've got some absolute pearlers for you this week, folks.
Bangers.
Let's start with this. Andrew Tate just got liquidated on WLFI for 190k, losing 68k.
Didn't he also get liquidated on ETH some time back?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The top G just took a big L.
Yeah, there we go, man. Sorry, bro. Bro.
Bad luck. Bad luck, Andrew Tate.
Better luck next time.
Boo-hoo. Okay, next up, we have this one, Lambo. Imagine telling someone in 2021 that Justin Sun would get honeypotted by the President of the United States in 4 years.
We live in an alternate reality, bro, honestly, man.
It really just sums it up, doesn't it? Beautiful. Yeah. We have next this one from Upslope Capital. So this is Brian Armstrong announcing that they've just bumped up the max leverage from 20x to 50x on international perps futures.
Yeah, which I assume what Upslope is referring to you, that is akin to giving a chimpanzee an AK-47, which means it probably can't end well.
What could possibly go
I would
wrong?
Love to know what movie that's from, though.
Yeah, that context would be
is key there, exactly.
Yes, let's see what happens when you give a bunch of degens even more leverage to play with. Now, this next tweet, my word, if you weren't paying attention over the weekend, folks, you missed one of the great crypto Twitter spats of all time.
For the ages, bro.
So this involves two characters who we've talked about a fair bit on this stream. First up is the Litecoin intern. They've definitely featured in tweets of the week before. And the second one is our very good friend and friend of the channel, Ben Cowan. Now Ben got stuck into Litecoin on the timeline, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So first context, guys, if you guys don't know, the Litecoin intern is probably one of the best interns when it comes to crypto projects in terms of fire tweets. Like, he's always firing at Solana, many different ecosystems. And Ben is also a person who will not shy away from a Twitter fight or a Twitter spat. And he's got some bangers as well. And in this case, Ben did start it to the extent the Litecoin intern says, "I say the quiet parts out loud, but we all should." And then Ben goes and replies with a chart Bitcoin, of Litecoin versus Bitcoin, and it appears to be down only. And he says, "quote the quiet part." So then obviously Litecoin in turn comes out and he starts making fun of Ben's hairline with like an image, and then Ben comes back with another banger and says, "Just found a use case for my receding hairline. What is Litecoin's use case again?" And his use case, obviously, he's posting the chart of Litecoin on his head, and then back and forth and back and forth. But you can see this got really intense, guy, because a Cointelegraph writer actually made a story out of it.
Yeah.
It's like TMZ getting on top, guys. Can you believe it? Ben Cowan and Litecoin intern are going at it. We got to go and sit back and watch this, man.
You sent me this story on Slack over the weekend, and my first reaction was, it's like, this is a slow news weekend.
I don't know, man. I think this is more exciting than everything. This is more exciting than Tempo. This is more exciting than the Hyperliquid and stablecoin. This is the most exciting thing that's happened on crypto.
Should we have done this in a main section of the news?
Maybe it could have been like breaking down the few exactly.
And then Ben said, this is an odd thing, like, because obviously I know Ben quite well now. We've been live streaming with him for like a couple of years now, and he really is the loveliest guy. He's very, very laid back, really sort of chilled in real life. But boy, get him on Twitter. Cross him on Twitter, and you better know what you're doing. You better be the Litecoin intern. You better.
And he also, he's got a long memory, guys. He stores those tweets. So if you come and throw shade at him this cycle in 4 years' time, he'll pull out that tweet and he'll reply, quote tweet you, and get you flamed. Man.
He does not forget. He was talking to me about this. I think we were talking before a live stream. I can't remember. He's quite good at searching through. Like he's very good at finding these tweets. So yes, as Summer 368 points out. Yes, maybe that was who I was going to say for the Wall of Fame.
Well,
we didn't do the Walls of Fame and Shame this week because it wasn't obvious who we were going to have for each one. But in retrospect, we should have put Ben on. So Ben, you're on the honorary Wall of Fame, and the Litecoin intern as well.
They should have both been on.
They both are.
They're both well performed last week. Anyways, guys, times for dates for the diary this week coming up. So 2 very important economic dates, economic data points and releases. That's on September 10th, PPI. This is the producer price inflation, and that's the precursor to the big day, which is September the 11th, which is the CPI number, expected of 2.9% on the headline versus 2.7 previous, and then the core CPI number in terms of year on year is 3.1% versus 3.1% previous. So obviously this could line up expectations in terms of what's going to happen with monetary policy. So everyone's going to be keeping their eyes on that. So mark those dates.
Okay.
And then on September 14th, this is also very interesting. There's a vote in Hyperliquid's forums in terms of the validators must vote on what stablecoin provider they want to use for their own proprietary stablecoin, the infra behind it. So it's quite interesting because they're thinking about moving away from USDC to their own native stablecoin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, interesting. All right, we'll keep a lookout for that. Okay, we'll just finish with a couple of comments. Two absolute favorites here. This one from Stefan: need an executive order to ban lower lows. I would imagine that is being worked on as we speak, Stefan. So don't worry too much about that.
Trump makes it happen, man. All he needs to do is tweet about Bitcoin strategic reserve, and there's no more lower lows. It's just up only, right?
Yeah, we don't like these lower lows. They're too low.
No,
they've got it. They must go higher. They won't do. No, we're going to ban them. That's not a very good Trump impression, is it? I'm working on it. And then this one, Joshua says, "Is Lewis the guy's son?" I know Lewis. A slight resemblance, but look, I'm not taking the test, and no one can prove anything.
He's genetically modified. He's genetically engineered to be like Guy. Exactly.
Yeah, we took a skin sample and basically grew him in the lab here at Coin Bureau Biotech Enterprises.
Here we go.
We've got loads more of them coming through as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've actually
female version as well.
Yeah. That hasn't gone very well, I must say. Actually, we're both. I think there's about 6 or 7 clones of me now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we put out so much content. Anyway, that's it for this week, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Let's hope next week is a bit more eventful.
Should be, yeah. Let's look at it, guys. Come on, keep it up, guys.
Cool. Tune in next week, folks. We'll be back same time, same place. Thank you for watching. See you then,
guys.
Guy ready to believe in time. All real coin long live Coin Bureau as always. LFG legends, love your takes on things.
So,
oh
my
my
word!
God.
So this was going to be the wall of fame and
Fame,
shame this
shame.
week if we'd had someone. I think it's just as well we didn't find someone.
Finally, they put guys, women again. There we go.
Thank
Camilla.
you. Thank you.
That's
Crypto-
that's Camilla, I
Crypto
assume,
Queen.
right?
Thank you very
Or is that the
much.
Queen? It's supposed to be the Queen
That's
and
the Queen. That's the
Prince
Queen.
Philip. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
well, at least I think so. It's
Sacrilegious, man. Look how they're just
yeah,
respecting
I
your
know.
Queen.
I know.
Just
If we
an
were
ugly
if
face
we
of
were
the
back
Queen.
in the UK, you'd be on your way to the Tower by now. They'd be lopping your head off. That's